I'm Jim at RC4 Wireless, and I am introducing here how to use a LumenDimPix. And the LumenDimPix is the technical performance equivalent of an RC4 Magic Series 3 DMXpix. But the LumenDimPix links with a Lumen radio transmitter. And there are a number of reasons why a Lumen radio system might be superior for your application, and this is really why RC4 Wireless makes products for several different radio links, because it's really up to you which one you prefer, which one is right for your environment. From the simplest reason, like the production people at your company have already invested in something, to looking at range and how different products interact with other wireless systems in the environment. Certainly going with a Lumen radio system is a great idea in a whole lot of ways. So we've made the LumenDimPix to give you all of the features that a DMXpix gives you if you were using an RC4 Magic system. So I have to recommend go back and look at the tutorials and the demonstrations that I've made for the Pix, for the DMXpix, because all of the data is the same, all of the information is the same, the principles that about what the parameters are. So we're going to dive right into this now, presuming you know what I'm talking about. So you do kind of need to go back and look at those. The LumenDimPix has to be paired with your transmitter, and I've done that already. So I have LumenDim.io, which is our small Lumen radio compatible transmitter, and I have a LumenDimPix over here. They're paired together. I already have a live DMX link working. And now I need to configure the parameters in the LumenDimPix to do something interesting on a pixel string. There are 2 channels. Each one will do a pixel string up to 500 pixels long, which is a lot. Remember, your one Lumen radio universe is 512 channels. You can run multiple universes, but a single universe coming out of one RF receiver and one product is a single universe. And that's 512 channels, but 500 pixels is 1,500 channels, so that's the equivalent of 3 universes. And that's where RC4 custom pixel profiles really becomes remarkably powerful. So the way we set parameters on the LumenDimPix is with RC4 Enhanced OneTouch. What we do is we harness the control surface of a DMX console as our user interface. And so levels of channels and the channels that you're using represent how you're setting parameters. And remember, having looked at the DMXpix information, there are several parameters that are really important. So let's just quickly review those. There's the string type. There's a whole lot of different pixel chips that end up looking pretty much the same, but they work different ways. So you buy a string, it's got a certain kind of chip in it. You've got to set your controller to do the right type. And we do pretty much all of them. So here on my top 2 rows are vivid RGB pixel strings. There's 300 pixels in a row, and they use the WS2812 control chip. It is one of the most popular. And so to use OneTouch to configure our DMXpix, each channel is separate. We use a channel to pick the string type. We use a channel to pick the keyframe length, a channel to pick the grouping size, and a channel to pick the type of replication that we'll use, so the way it's morphed or replicated, extended down the string. You'll see in a chart below here are what the different values are that represent different settings. It's really very simple. For the length and the grouping, it is literally the value. So you go to the channel that's for the length of the keyframe. If you want it to be 32 channels or 60 channels or 100 channels long, you just set the DMX channel that's for that parameter to that number. So let's do one. If I go, I'm going to make this, on this console I have 24 channels here, so I can do 8 RGB pixels. And it's WS2812, so you'll see on the chart, if I go to a level of 75, that picks that string type. And then my next channel is the length of the keyframe. And since I want to use this one row, I'm going to use 8. And the grouping, I want to open this up, expand it a bit. So let's go with 7. So for every single pixel on the console, it's going to become 7 pixels on the string. So there, I've just got 4 channels set there. Very simple and easy. And I go over to my LumenDimPix, and I push the Set A button. And it's really important that you understand what's happening is that the moment I push the button, I've captured the values on the console, and they become the settings that are saved until we were to do this process again. So I think the key thing you need to realize is it's at the moment that you push the button, the OneTouch moment, when this stuff is captured. After that, when you're not pushing the button, the faders are back to being DMX channels. This is just for configuration. So here we're going to press Set A. Now we have, some of the channels are up and we can see that there's red there. And it's red, blue, green. I don't want it to be red, blue, green. I want it to be red, green, blue. So I have obviously changed the channel levels, but I want to get the color order correct. What's really kind of cool about the way this OneTouch works is if you have channels at 0, they will not overwrite the previously existing setup. Basically what we're saying is if it's not at a valid number, it's not going to change the configuration. So now I can go to just the first channel, set the string type again, which is the same value of 75, and each time I push the Set A button again, all I'm doing is cycling through to the next color order. So here I got an order that starts with green, an order that starts with blue, and an order that starts with red. And since we had red before, I'm pretty confident that this is the other one that starts with red. And so there we are, we have red, green, blue, and we have the pixels in the right order. And now let's see how all of that configuration came out. Here is the pixels, control of the first pixel in the group. Remember, we put them in 7, so that's why we see 7 physical pixels running from 1 console pixel. And we have the 3 colors. I'll just leave up the green a little bit so you can see that when I go to the next group of 3, I'm doing the next pixel, and the third one, and so on. So, and we did 8, so now here we go, and I'm making a pattern. Now picture you're doing chases in your console, and that is running down and controlling a 500 pixel string. So look what we just did there. We configured that entire string with a complex RC4 custom pixel profile, and I am in live control of what it's doing, and it took really seconds to do. It took me longer to explain it to you than it actually takes to do. Remember, we got a second channel, so let's go through the same steps and do the second one. I'm going to go up to channel 25, which is where my second row starts on my console. So channel 25. I'm going to bring all the other ones down because we don't want OneTouch to be confused about where the pattern is starting. And on channel 25, just like we did on the first set, I'm going to go to level 75, which represents, as you'll see in the chart below, that that's a WS2812 string. And once again, I'm going to use a keyframe of 8, and I have to say, it can be anything. I could make it, one of my favorites is 60. A keyframe of 60 pixels is super powerful. And the only reason that I'm doing 8 is because that's how many faders I have right here on the console to mess with. And then I am going to do, I'll group it even wider. Let's go to 14, or there's 18 pixels of grouping, so it's going to be a really wide, stretched pattern. And then finally, the replication method. Let's pick something else. So I've got my 4 channels set. I'm going to use this on my B string, the bottom one. So let's go over and push the Set B button. So here's that moment of capture where those settings on the console become the configuration parameter values. And there we have our first pixel is red. Let's see if we got the color order right. Same thing, red, red, blue, green again. So here's my red up. All the other channels are down. I have to make sure I'm on the value that represents the string type. That's the one thing you need to remember. And we'll cycle the B up to the other option that starts with red. Now we have red and green and blue. And all of this is remembered forever after. The moment that I push that button, stored in non-volatile memory, it's in there till you do this process again. The levels have nothing to do with it anymore. So now we have same idea as I did on the upper string, except as I said, it's much wider. So the sections are, they're more blocky, and they still go all the way through 500 pixels, 3 universes of pixels controlled from this row of faders. So there's the other example up at the top. Super powerful. 2 strings, 1,000 pixels, 3,000 DMX channels of data generated from 48 channels of data. All the way around a nightclub, all the way around an atrium, whatever you like. Tiny part of a single universe, beautiful big display.